Hey guys, what's up? This is Sean, and I've been writing for Pew Pew Tacticals since 2018, but came on board full-time to cover great stories like this. So buckle up.
Fasten your seatbelts.
The folks at Crimson Trace recently came out with a whole lineup called RAD, an acronym for Rapid Aiming Dot. When I say lineup, I mean they came out with 10 models. As a child of the 70s, I adored the 80s and had many fond associations with this often used exclamation. Normally, I see companies release a few products to fill a need, but CT hopes to scratch your every red dot itch with a slew of devices and a bunch of different options. There are 10 models, but for the sake of clarity, they consist of 3 basic body sizes: a micro, pistol, and long gun size. And just like Goldilocks, you should be able to find the one that's right for you.
Somebody's been sleeping in my bed.
In this video, I'm going to focus on my experience with the CT RAD PRO, the premium full-size pistol option. While the release is exciting in and of itself, a huge part of the story for me was the fact that the event brought together a lot of content producers from all walks of life, at a place I hold tantamount to Mecca, Gunsite. Having spent a week at this famed gunfighting school previously, no coaxing was necessary for me. Johnny Fantastic, the wizard behind the lens, and I quickly flew out to see what Crimson Trace had on tap. Over the years, I've been to a number of product releases, but when someone summons you to Gunsite, you are assured of a couple things. You're going to have a good time, and you're going to learn a lot. Now, my previous experience with Crimson Trace consisted of a few add-on grips that included laser pointers, basically an external aiming device upgrade for various pistols. Man, has their line grown. CT now offers shooters a wide array of products to address everyday and even nighttime challenges. There are a slew of red dots, 2 lines of magnified scopes, weapon lights, and more lasers than a Star Wars trilogy. All of which come in at a wide price range based on application and features. Shooters can find affordable, entry-based solutions or move up from there. But before I get too carried away about the plentiful line of products, the reason we were called to Gunsite was the RAD. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be focusing on the RAD PRO in this piece, and will follow up with a review of the RAD Max in a subsequent video. The model I tested extensively at Gunsite was the CT RAD PRO Red, meaning it is an open reflex sight for full-frame pistols. The red dot in this unit is sized at 3 MOA and feels very familiar to folks like me who are used to this relatively new method of aiming pistols. The RAD PRO is an upgraded model from the standard RAD and boasts a great feature set, including an ambient light sensor, shake awake on, and auto shut off after 8 hours. It also shuts off after 2 minutes of no movement, though manual mode is available. These last 2 features are designed to conserve energy, leading CT to claim an upper battery life of 20,000 hours on a CR1632. Notably, the battery is housed in a top mount on the Pro, so it isn't necessary to remove the optic to swap out. The standard RAD has a bottom mount battery. Adding to the lineup, the Pro also comes in red or green dot option, and brightness settings range from 8 daylight settings to 2 nighttime. The body of the RAD is made from 7075 series aerospace aluminum, which Crimson Trace says is 30% stronger than the 6061 series aluminum other manufacturers use. In addition, the multi-coated lens of the Pro has a recessed window for protection. The top strap of the housing is designed to deflect force should the optic get dropped. The folks at the event told us the RADs are severely tested, suffering 5,000 cycles on a shock tower. Having toured another manufacturer's facility, I know this to be a device that holds a lot of optics and slams up and down to simulate recoil. During this ordeal, the units experience up to 6,000 Gs. Testers look for a shift in 0 once the cycles are complete. They also subject them to 5,000 rounds of .40 caliber in a live fire test, so the units are pretty thoroughly wrung out. CT covers the RAD family with the Crimson Protect lifetime warranty. Crimson Trace was kind enough to provide a Gen 5 Glock 19 with a RAD PRO mounted to it for the training at Gunsite, and train we did. Fortunately, I had attended a 250 pistol course a few years back, so I was familiar with a lot of the curriculum. We zeroed our optics, then started working drills. Right away, I noticed and appreciated the viewable area of the RAD. It was generous without being enormous and allowed me to quickly get on target after drawing from a provided holster. I was also able to ride the dot through recoil and quickly reacquire sight picture for follow-up shots. We spent time shooting center mass, then closing with headshots in a classic discipline created at Gunsite, the Mozambique drill. This test and the skill it imparts forces the shooter to fire a few shots at center mass. When the target does not go down, the shooter must transition to the head and take further shots. Delightfully, the red dot of the RAD PRO greatly aided my ability to find and hit center mass, then move the dot up to the head for the stopping shot. We did this and so many other drills repeatedly, really learning the dot and its capabilities. At Gunsite, when the sun goes down, the shooting doesn't stop. Things just get more interesting. After a thorough briefing from the instructors, we set out on the line once again to use our RAD PROs in the fading twilight. The auto brightness feature did a great job of detecting ambient settings, but I appreciated the tactile buttons on the sides of the housing which allowed me to adjust brightness manually. Things also got punched up a notch when we started implementing the Crimson Trace weapon lights mounted to our Glocks. The CMR 207G Railmaster Pro has a couple of great features that make it ideal for lights out work. First, it has two paddle switches in the rear that are accessible from either side of the trigger guard. A quick stab would turn the lights on, while holding the button down would allow momentary control of the 400 lumen beam. That might be fun enough for some, but the Railmaster Pro also has a green laser.
Frickin' laser beam!
With a little adjustment on windage and elevation, all the shooters had theirs dialed in, and we continued with drills into the night. The way mine came together, my red dot from my RAD Pro completely covered my green dot from my weapon light as I looked through the RAD. However, I could imagine scenarios where I might rely on the externally projected laser for a shot should the RAD go down or somehow be occluded. All the shooters went through more training, and we even ran a few courses, shooting steel at different distances, even addressing a hostage target. It was a hell of a good time, and all the exercises greatly demonstrated the capabilities of both the red dots and weapon lights offered by Crimson Trace. By the end of a pretty intense 2 days of training, we all had some solid impressions of the RAD Pro. My thoughts were straightforward. The range of the full line of red dots is between $200 to $400, so there's an optic choice for nearly everyone. My natural leaning is toward the higher end because more features means more capability or more options. However, the lineup seems solid regardless of where you buy in. The performance of the unit I tested was very solid. There was no flickering, no discernible shift in zero, and I had predictable results every time I brought my weapon up to target. The brightness set on auto performed well in various lighting situations, but I always had the option to bump it up or down to my preference. While I did not abuse the optic, I didn't baby it either. Drawing, shooting, reholstering, and repeating this process a whole lot during our hours on the range. There was even a mildly frustrating run through the donga with some bad frangible ammo that caused me to beat on the gun repeatedly to force it into battery. I was impressed with the features and capabilities offered by not only the RAD, but also the Railmaster weapon light. The two paired together really helped me sail through a low light run that might otherwise be very challenging. This was a great experience, and I'd like to thank the folks who made it happen. I'm going to do that in the next video, which will cover the RAD Max for long guns. I'll have a full review of the RAD Max for long gun applications. Until then, please hit the thumbs up, put down any comments or questions below, and don't forget to ring that bell.